And Kate, kicking off tonight with a look at the latest for the struggling French car maker Peugeot Citroën. It just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it?
It seems to be that way, Laura. Peugeot, or PSA as it's known, has been flailing for some time now, and that's mainly because of falling sales in Europe. Now, we got some new data this Monday that didn't seem to raise much hope. Overall sales fell 4.9% in 2013 compared with the previous year. Now, across Europe, sales fell over 7%. The best results came from emerging markets. Some 42% of PSA sales were outside of Europe, and the fastest growth came from China. China is also where Peugeot is looking for capital. It's confirmed that it's in advanced discussions with the Chinese motor group Dongfeng and the French state to raise some 3 billion euros of urgently needed capital. That would amount to about a 15% stake each. Let's take a listen to PSA's managing director.
The future of Citroën, of course, depends on a stable situation in Europe, but mostly on growth, and places where there is growth, like China. We've lost 40% of our market share in Europe, and we can't be satisfied with that.
Peugeot's shares closed down over 11% as investors digested that particular news. Moving on now, China's economic growth clocked in at just 7.7% last year, higher than the government's target rate of 7.5%, but not an increase on 2012. So what's behind the sudden stabilization of the world's second largest economy? Jonathan Crane explains.
China, an economic powerhouse, but it would appear its days of double-digit growth are over. The Chinese economy levelled off in 2013, with GDP expanding by 7.7%, the same as the year before. Those figures represent the slowest rate of growth since 1999. While China's GDP expansion still exceeds that of the United States, Japan or Europe, the stagnation underlines the balancing act faced by the ruling Communist Party as it begins to adopt painful economic reforms.
2013 was not an ordinary year, but only by putting things into context can we understand the difficulties we faced.
Among the reforms are measures aimed at driving domestic consumption and opening up the market to the private sector, thereby reducing dependence on exports and the state-driven lending that's fueled growth, but also led to mounting debts. Analysts predict the short-term pain will be worth it.
The fact that we are seeing the Chinese economy slow down in 2013, I think is not just a huge plus for the long-term growth of the economy, but it also signals confidence by the government that both the country and the party can withstand the challenges of this new policy shift.
GDP is expected to slow further in the coming year, though it's hoped exports will pick up if the US and European economies continue their recovery.
Now, that data sent Asian markets all into the red this Monday. It's also been having an impact here in Europe, where we saw only the FTSE closing in positive territory. Europe was also partly weighed down by some very disappointing figures from Deutsche Bank, which reported a surprise pre-tax loss of over €1 billion for the fourth quarter. Wall Street is closed this Monday as the US marks Martin Luther King Day. Let's take a look at some of the day's other business news now. The world's largest chip maker will cut 5% of its staff as it heads into a year where it expects revenue to be flat. Intel said it would slash more than 5,000 jobs in an effort to boost earnings. Last week, the company reported falling profits for the second year in a row. The weak global economic recovery has failed to make a real dent in unemployment figures, and it shows no signs of picking up. That's the gloomy outlook from the International Labour Organization, which said the crisis could continue until 2018, when some 215 million people worldwide could be out of work. The agency said some 45% of those who lost jobs last year from South and East Asia, and urged governments around the world to focus more on the labour markets and less on austerity. And about half of South Koreans have fallen victim to a hacker. A computer contractor working for a company that produces credit scores stole personal data, including credit card details and social security numbers of 20 million people, and then sold that information to marketing firms. The contractor has already been taken into custody, along with some of the managers of the firms that bought the data. And finally, Amazon is taking the principle of knowing its customers to a whole new level. The online giant has patented anticipatory shipping, getting a product on its way before customers even finalize the purchase. The process is based on previous orders, product searches, and wish lists, with the idea being to cut down on shipping time. That's all for now. I'll be back with more business news throughout the evening. For now, it's back to you, Laura.
Wow, sending you stuff before you've even decided to buy it. That's the shape of the future, isn't it? Thank you, Kate. We'll see Kate again in an hour for an update on the business. But let's get an update on the day's sports news now. Dan Levy's here. Hello there, Dan.
Hi, Laura.
Let's start with some tennis. Roger Federer back on form at the Australian Open.
Yeah,
in
remember
Melbourne.
he had a really rough 2013. Federer just won